Faluma's way, here comes Daden! Scramble! Tigers! Alex Twell! Alex Twell has ended up with a ball! Oh no! Unbelievable! One small step for man! One giant leap for Alex Twell!
Welcome to the Ultimate Supercoach and Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Inside Fantasy Sports Podcast.
G'day, guys. We're live for the Sunday sesh for round 17 on Insight Fantasy Sports, where we wrap up all things NRL Supercoach. Show's brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, bringing you products to help you drink responsibly and conveniently on the Supercoach brain. Joined by my tin drinking friend, the Supercoach Mattrix. How are you, mate? You had a good week this week, right?
Yeah, in my element. Just feeling good. Had C&K with the vice captain, and just rolled into some disappointing scores. I did cop a few, but all in all, you got to be happy when first game of the round your VC scores 150, and you're just on a roll.
I think back to I think it was Mark in the chat maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago saying to us like, the first game of the round or Thursday night football is never really conducive for big scores. And I'm thinking to myself, hang on, like C&K did well this week. And then I remembered it was a Friday night game. I'm like, the curse is still alive for Thursday night football. Just never pick a good captain on Thursday nights. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Got a few people hopping online. We've got Raymond, Scott, Rosa, Damo, Harrison, Robbie. How are you guys? He got you. You got him this week. You got Damo this week, Matty.
Wouldn't have been hard.
Mate, I was going to say, you would have probably knocked off nearly everybody in every league this week with your score, mate. So,
I see Harry Barker in the chat got a bit more than me. I ended up with, 1292. So, what did you end up with?
1197. So hopefully update over the 1200. I feel like maybe, I don't know what par is this week. It's just like a few guys are saying really interesting round in the chat. Like I agree with them. It's one of those weeks where you can't get a feel for what par is just because of, all the laid outs. Like Tino was a laid out, Munster was a laid out, Turbo obviously injured out for the season. Like there's just a lot going on through the week. So really tough to pick what par is. If I had to guess, maybe 1150, maybe, I don't know. Maybe 1175 might be par. I don't know. I feel like depending on how far up and down the ladder you are, that'll differ. But if you're in the top 5%, I'd say you probably want about 1150 to 1170, and you probably should see some green, I'd say. Guys, like I said, thanks for hopping on. If you haven't, or if you're not a subscriber to the YouTube channel, please do hit the subscribe button just below you. It really help us out. And obviously, you'd give you notifications when we are going live moving forward so you don't miss another show, and hit the like as well. And if you are listening to us on delay on Apple or Spotify or Google, make sure to hit the follow button there and give us a review as well. A few big scores coming in the chat as well. A few 1200s. Raymond Crane with 1213 with no trades made, so that's a big win. Robbie Starr 1290, and he was one player short as well. And then we've got Professor Cactus 1297. So, and he's got me. We've had this little back and forth all season, me and Professor Cactus. He's got me by 83 points at the moment. So, well played, mate. I'm coming for you, though. I'm definitely not down and out yet. Chris Macfield, 12-13. Well done, guys. Some good scores out there. I mean, I probably, again, will say it again, I wouldn't be going off what I'm seeing on social media as to what the average scores are, because only people that scored well will post their scores. So try not to overreact to that. Matty, Standard Squeeze, major sponsor of the podcast. Thank them for their support. I got my 4-in-1 here as always, like I do every single pod. Keeps your drink nice and cold. You've emptied yours. You've been polishing off some beers and some drinks lately.
It's been a big weekend.
Good on you. How good. But guys, if you want to get a discount on the Standard Squeeze awesome products, you can use Insight15 at checkout in the promo code section, and you give you 15% off. Tom's in delete app territory. Brutal. It's never delete app territory, mate. Just keep plugging away. I think I was 30,000th, like round 7 or 8. So you can climb back. There's still 11 rounds left this year. I think it's 10 now. So plenty of time. And Robbie's on the red wines as well. Love that. Mark a 1276 and Scott a 1095. So bit of range in the scores. good to get a little bit of a gauge on where people are at. But mate, I guess let's just kind of move into the games. I guess your first one, I guess, with the VC on Charles Nickel Klukstad with a 148. He was a relatively popular VC from what I've seen.
Yeah, well, definitely, like, people that listen to the show would have been onto CNK, because all week I was just like, look, I just got a feeling about CNK. He's playing the Dragons. The Warriors have looked good, and yeah, so it's good to see people get that score and get that reward for, I suppose, watching the games. I think Dallin getting 175. What he score 4 tries as well. Like, I suppose he was only 400k, but 6 weeks ago as well. So if you got on that, I don't know. We definitely didn't tell anybody to hop on Dallin, no. But I tell you what, if you were having a pod dig at that, you'd be pretty happy.
You'd be very happy. I think he's less than 1% owned, I think, in the top 1% of teams. So whoever did, I think one person brought in Dallin in the top 1,000 this week. So full credit to whoever that was. If you're watching, let us know, because that is elite super coaching. Also, Sean Johnson, a very popular VC option as well in that first game, got a 112. So a lot of people bought him in. He had a negative 19 break even, so he's scheduled to make about $100,000. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, he'd be 805k with a 38 break even based on Jay Schubert. So for anybody who doesn't follow Jay on Twitter, hop on Twitter and follow Jay Schubert. I'll try and get his actual tag properly so you can find him. But after the end of every single game, he will put up projections on how much money they'll make this week and what their BE will be next week. So it's actually pretty good info for us on a Sunday night pod too. So is he too far gone now, SJ? Like, if he didn't get on this week, he's past 800k. Like, do you fork out that kind of money?
It's hard. Like, when you look there and you see the 38 break even, you think, well, yeah, he's still attainable. Maybe if you're sitting there with Cleary, you could do it, but I think that's the only option unless you're sitting there with 500k in the bank. You know, at this point in the year, I want to put points on the board. I think he's gone. I think he's too far gone.
Yeah, I think last week, I mean, we were talking about SJ being a genuine option for the run home. Like, we were talking about potentially don't even bother with Cleary on the run home and just get SJ now and just bank the points and keep the trades for elsewhere. And if you did that, full credit to you this week. Hopefully it continues to pay off for you, because he was heavily looped this week too. But I think too far gone now. Hey, Tohu Harris, you an owner or is it just me?
Yeah, I'm an owner.
Is it time to panic? I mean, 56, like, it's not great. I mean, I think he ended up 48 and got upgraded to 56, like, pretty popular in the top 1,000 teams.
Yeah, he has 68 break even. You're getting serviceable front row forward scores. I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't waste a trade. Maybe if you can get him to Haas or something, maybe you could, now that now that 2/3 of Origin is finished. There's not too much more I'd want. Like, I think Fanua Blake's out of reach, and I don't know, some of those, like Corey Horsburgh, I think you've missed the boat, and some of those really spicy tags. I think I'm sitting there with Tarpany, Tohu, Christian Welch. Maybe I just sit and wait it out.
I think so. I think Tohu could be, I mean, my plan for him long term is I've got Jacob Preston, obviously, like most do, in the 2RF, and Jacob Preston through to round 19 will be great. And then I'm going to try and turn him into Payne Haas potentially if he starts to pick up, and shift Tohu down to 2RF. Like, at the end of the day, I can use Tohu as my fourth 2RF for the year. And then, you know, essentially, like, you can play him on matchups. You can play him when you feel like he's probably going to get through a bit more work, but you don't have to rely on him. That might be the best play, I think.
It's crazy that we're at this point of the year where at the start of the year, we were like, there is such a smorgasbord of second row forwards there. And now you're talking about putting a front row forward into your second row because it's really just dried right up. Yeah.
And I also think now we're getting to the pointy end of the season where people want to lock in their keepers for the run home, right? So it's kind of like, you know, is Tohu in your best 17? Like, I could probably, I mean, everybody's going to want David Fafita. Everybody's going to want Britton Nickera. Like, these guys now, these obvious 2RF options, how many do they have? You know, how many? Yep. You've only got 3 slots in 2RF. So I feel like maybe he's not in the top 3 2RFs. So that's probably why now we're starting to ask our questions around that. But, mate, we'll move on to Jack DeBellin, 59. He's back under 600K. His price is falling. He's got a 93 break even coming in next week. I mean, is he the shiny new toy now that's kind of just been thrown in the corner? Are people now forgetting about him? Does he become relevant again now that price has dropped back, or are we looking elsewhere now?
I'm looking elsewhere now. Again, not wanting to waste trades in this front row forward, especially not like, I suppose, sideways to a Jack DeBellin. Maybe if I was starting Harry Edwards every week or something, you'd find a way. But look, realistically, I'm not looking at Jack DeBellin. Payne Haas is the only front row forward that I want to make a trade in my front row, apart from maybe enough for the rest of the year.
Yeah. The Warriors do play round 19, so do the Dragons. So I guess there's a fair bit of relevance around the players that we've just mentioned, and probably are some good options essentially for the run home, or at least for the next month. But mate, let's move on to the second game. Dolphins 20 lost to the Eels 48. This was a drubbing. What is it, 42-4 or something at halftime? So, and then the Dolphins ended up winning 16-6 or something in the second half. So, full credit to the Dolphins for dragging that one back, because that could have been a record. That could have been a records broken, I think, in this one.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that we sort of got out with some good scores from some Supercoach relevant players. Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. And it could be silly. Is Hammer now a viable option? Like, I know that everybody missed the boat on him, but I've just sort of been watching him depreciate in value, and he nearly hit 500K this week. You know what? When you're getting pumped by as much as them and you get an 86, it really makes me look at you.
He'll be 550K this week, and you'll get one more game out of him before he then goes back to Origin round 19. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I've looked very closely at him. The problem is now, anybody you get in next week that's playing Origin, you get them for 1 out of 2 weeks. So you've got to accept that, and you've got to be okay for round 19 and round 20, I think, because there's every chance maybe he doesn't back up after a long Origin campaign. He's been best on ground most games. Do they rest him round 20? Realistically, maybe they do. Who knows? We're playing guessing games, but do you want him for the run home? I definitely don't hate it, considering I think he's under 1% owned in the top 1% of teams.
That's what I was looking at. And if he's like your 5th centre wing or 6th centre wing even, like how juicy is that? Hammer. Robbie hit the nail on the head. Like 500K is a juicy price. Yes, he's going to be 550. But like you're looking at other blokes. Like you've missed the boat. For example, you've missed the boat on Asako. He's 800K. Yep. Look, maybe you could just get a small slice of that pie for 550.
Yeah, I'm probably leaning in another direction. I think once I make one more trade, I'm potentially done in the center wing. I'll probably just ride that one home, but I'll talk about that soon at the end when we talk trades.
Cool.
Scores in this one: Gutho 109, popular VC option, obviously. Hopgood and Moses both 105. I VC'd Moses this week, and I'll tell you what, when he went from 118 to 105, I was kind of pissed. And then when Cody Walker went and got 40 odd, I was happy again, because Cody Walker would have been my captain if I didn't back the VC loop, and I would have been very upset. So they both did really well. Eels are starting to put it all together. I mean, the timing, they run really well now at the back end of the season, and if they can keep this up for the run home, they're going to be a really tough team to beat through finals. So
yeah.
If you got Moses now, do you hold him for the rest of the year? Because a lot of people kind of used Moses as a bit of maybe a bridge or a stopgap for Cleary. I'm probably tempted now to just not even bother and just hold Moses and Hines for the rest of the year. I'm
not going to make that call now, though. I'm probably perfectly happy if I'm sitting here with Hines and Moses at the end of the year. The 27 buy hurts. If I'm going to do that trade, if I think in round 24 that I could go across to Cleary, maybe I can go sideways to Cleary, and Cleary's looks like he's going to hit a bit of form, then yes, I'll do it, because I will probably want a halfback playing in round 27 or 2 halfbacks, especially gun halfbacks like that. But I'm not going to make that call now. I'm just going to wait. But if the time's right, I think I'd move Moses on. But I'm also completely happy if I end up with Moses at the end of the year.
I think round 24/25 might be the time to get rid of him. I think they play the Dragons in maybe round 23. So Eels players in general come up a pretty tough run. I think it's Roosters into Panthers into Broncos or something like that. It's 3 pretty tough games in a row. I mean, maybe the Roosters aren't a tough game anymore, but they can still compete. And I feel like maybe you might want to get off one of them around round 23 or round 24, I should say. And then you could probably just hold those trades for round 27 and then just kind of clear out Eels stock with whatever trades you have left. And I think that probably segues into the point we wanted to talk about with making sure that you have trades left for the run home. When we were looking at the teams that play at the back end of the year or don't play at the back end of the year, we've got the Broncos round 25 bye. So for teams that have Reece Walsh, Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan, all of these kind of guys, they're going to miss round 25. Then you've got Souths who miss round 26. You've got a lot of relevant players there. Cody Walker, Damien Cook, Campbell Graham,
Cam Murray, Colin Matangi. Yep.
So many options
Richie
at round
Kenner.
26. Yeah, the GOAT. You're going to need trades around 26 if you want to field a strong squad. And then round 27, the Eels, who are, again, a very popular team. Those last 3 rounds could absolutely buckle some Supercoach teams, I think, for those that go in with no trades left. And I'm looking at you, Damien Carroll, because he's asked us in the chat, ideal amount of trades to have left from here. What are your thoughts on this number?
Look, I would be happier if I had probably 13 or 14. I'm sitting there on 12 and I feel like I've saved, but I suppose I get rewarded when I have a really good week, but maybe I'm mortgaging my future. If you're sitting there with 9, 10, 11, you might just have to cop a bad bye week or something if you've got 9 to try and steer the ship home. Look, realistically, I would want 14.
Yeah, I've got 14 right now, and I'm thinking I'll probably make 1 trade next week, which will leave me 13. But me personally, I want to make sure that I have 5 trades for those final 3 rounds because I want to still make sure that if I'm in any cash comp finals or anything like that, and I get stuck in a quarter or a semi-final with 4 or 5 players out from one team, and I'm in all sorts of trouble with no trades, that's a disaster. You lose that matchup, you lose your cash comp. And also, if you're serious about going up the overall rankings at the end of the year, I think personally, I'd want at least maybe 3 trades for those final 3 rounds so I could at least move one of those guys out per round as a bare minimum.
So say you're one of those people that played, really good Supercoach this week and you've got Gutho, Hopgood and Moses. You don't want to go into the last week with, $2.2 million worth of players that you can't play. That's the point that we're having. So
Yeah, 100%. Well summed up. Isaiah Katoa. Now, he got 15. Lemuelu also got 35. A couple of busts there that are, relatively well owned, I guess. You're jumping off. Are you jumping off both? I think Lemuelu's maybe more the questionable one. Got that 2 RF centre wing duel. Do you jump off now, considering he came off the bench on the weekend?
Yep, 100%. It's time to go.
Yeah. I think there's people around his price that you can go up to that's not going to cost you a ton of cash either. So, and
you've probably made really good money. Like you probably didn't get Lemuelu thinking he was going to be a keeper. It's just like, just don't be too proud to say, hey, look, Uncle Wayne's moved him to the bench. It's time to go. Yep,
absolutely. Hey, last question on this one. Ryan Madison. I know you're pretty high on him, as am I, and as are a lot of super coaches. 51 this week. He'll drop down to 600K. He's going to have 101 break even next week. Is there going to be a time? Eels have the bye next week. Sorry, so he's going to have 101 break even come round 19 in that major bye round. Do you bite the bullet and just jump on at 101 break even and just ride him on the way home, or are you now thinking round 27 in your head and going, how many Eels can I have?
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. Unless Ryan Madison ends up playing a lot more minutes and Hopgood sort of drop. I actually wouldn't mind a Hopgood to Madison to make sure I don't have too many Eels. Just something like you could end up with 300K there.
Yeah.
Which is madness considering most of us hadn't heard of Hopgood at the start of the year.
I'm watching very closely with Hopgood's minutes too, because when Madison obviously comes back on his normal minutes, you've also got Sean Lane to come back into this team. Wiramu Greg's out, so it kind of throws out that middle rotation a little bit. But I don't know. I feel like potentially the same thing could happen to Hopgood as it did at the middle of the season, where people started to jump off. So realistically, I could do Hopgood to Fafita when the time comes, and that in my head, that's probably my ticket to David Fafita is having to do Hopgood, which I'm okay with, I think. So
So what you said, you want to go Jacob Preston to Payne Haas. I actually want to go Jacob Preston to Fafita. So
yeah, fair enough. And look, hey, Payne Haas only got 50 this week, so you could argue maybe he's not necessary.
Yeah, you could. Braden McGrady got 51, and popular Valence Tavare. What did he get? 60?
56, I think.
Yeah, 56. Yeah. Just good for owners. Just a good news story, really.
Yeah, and look, McGrady won't make cash for another 2 weeks. And look, if he holds his spot until then, he could be a really good option round 19 for the buyers enough. I mean, or he might hold his spot and you might score well. Who knows? I picked up Valence Tavare this week, and I'm pretty happy with the 56. I played him as well. So get the points, get the cash, get a guy that's hopefully going to play a few games. Not upset.
If McGrady's playing round 19, I think that I will own him, sort of hoping that he just sort of nuffs out or just hopefully never have to play him ever again. Because I am looking to get rid of, somebody like Billy Smith, or maybe using my jewels to get rid of Schuster or somebody like that. And this guy, like, at least seeing him score 51 was good news. I wasn't going to jump on it straight away because I'm not actually sure that he'll play round 19. But if he's there playing round 19, he's a target for me.
Yeah, and you don't need to jump early. There's no point. It's not like you're missing out on cash up until that point anyway. It's perfect timing. So definitely time to look in round 19. Mate, a few questions before we jump onto the next game. Robbie Starr's asking, who is he trading in for Gutho? Who is there? Walsh. Are people looking to jump off Gutho next round?
I think that you probably hold Gutho. You definitely want Gutho to play round 19. Yeah, you hold there, and especially not, we've just saw what happens with Walsh, and we're going to cover it later. I'm going to be crying. But yeah, we're going to be watching that, and I would just hold Gutho. Like, he's out of reach for most people to get. Just hold on to him.
Gutho makes 100,000 this week, and he's 47 break even in round 19. So he'll cover that. You definitely don't need to, especially in a major buy round as well. Hold him for round 19, use him there, and then reassess. And obviously just be wary of that final buy round. But excuse me, not a big issue, I don't think, Gutho. What are your thoughts on Garrick 170 break even next week? Mark Stair is asking. My answer to this one is he could have 1,070 break even, and he's just staying in my team for the season. Now that he's been given the fullback role at Manly, he got 62, I think it was, or maybe even more, 68 or something. I might quickly move forward. 62 at fullback. He didn't have one attacking stat and only kicked one goal, and he got 62.
And Manly got murdered.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah, no, he's staying in my team. Absolutely staying in my team. If you were doing Hopgood to Fafita, what are the 3 2RFs we want for the run home? That episode's coming Wednesday next week. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be a beauty. So basically, we're going to do a full episode on who you should target, who our ideal keepers are for the run home, or what kind of teams we're wanting to target for our trades for the run home, what our teams would want to look like. So stay tuned for that one next week. That'll be a good one. And there's already people saying Garrick's a hold for the season, so that's good. Chance Nickel Cookstad, is he a buy? I reckon he's going to be 780,000 this week. Do you reckon he's a buy?
No. That's why I'm probably so cheery about owning him. I think that if you're serious about Supercoach, you just look at him and just close your eyes every time the Warriors play well. Just remember, he scored 150. They were playing the Dragons. And, the Warriors, raised the bat for a half century, really. Honestly, let's not read too much into it. He's 780K. You can't buy him. You cannot afford him.
I would rather
you could use that money
Mulatalo.
somewhere else.
Yep, I'd rather Mulatalo, who plays the next 2 rounds and plays the major buy. I know Chance does too, but Ronaldo, and he's 613K, I think. So you're basically saving 150K on a guy like Mulatalo instead. That's my preferred option.
I think if you're an owner, he's just shown you that he could be a season-long keeper. Something that I've said probably for 6 or 7 weeks, just from watching how good he is. Even if he's had some ordinary scores as well. So he can drop cash, but not for this much money.
Scotty Drinkwater, is he a keeper? Hey, he just belted out 130 odd again.
He is a keeper if you own him, but it's exactly the same as CNK.
Yeah.
I'm watching him I have a few regrets because I was watching and like people asked me if I thought he was a buy, and I said, yeah, I'm just not sure I can do it. Well, I was wrong. I should have just done it.
Rosa is asking, is Cody Walker a sell? I'll say no. The only reason why is because I think he's a top 3 5'8" in the comp.
Yep.
And look, Dylan Brown's, we don't know what's going on there, so we can just pretend that he's not going to be back for the season. There's no point considering him when we don't know what's going on. Find out more at the end of the month. I think it'll be this coming week where he goes to court again.
Yeah, I thought it was this week, yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. But I think just because he's had one bad game doesn't make him a bad player. He's destroyed the competition most weeks this year. He's probably been the form 5'8" in the comp. People are talking about him playing Origin too. And now we're talking about him being a sell. So don't overreact to one bad week. He's coming off a quad issue too. So he's obviously not 100%. So just hold Cody Walker, pair him with Munster and enjoy for the run home, I think.
Well said.
All right. Yeah, drink Bolter, sorry. We're gonna make sure we keep in line with the sponsors.
Drink CC tonight.
Professor Cactus is Coates a buy. He was 320. He's going to go up 100K this week.
I'll let you answer that.
I don't think he's a buy now. I mean,
No.
2 weeks ago he was at 270K. And I said it 2 weeks ago as well. I'm claiming that one. Said he was an option.
That's why I let you answer.
Not at 400K. I'm not spending 420K on Coates. Not a chance. He can get me a 12. So I'd rather, I can take that risk at 270. I'm not taking that risk at 420.
Here's something. If Cobo's 100%, he won't get picked for Origin 3.
Yeah, good. Actually, that's a good call. That is a good shout. Saying that,
Coatesy was that good.
Storm have the buy anyway. So not really an issue either way.
Oh, not Supercoach relevant, just something that I noticed, something that I thought. So
yeah, good shout. DWZ, are you chasing last week's points if you're trying to buy him this week? He's going to be 700K plus. No thanks. All right, let's move on. Panthers 20, Knights 12. What did you take from this one, mate? Much. It's a bit of a weird game, this one. I thought the Panthers were going to probably not play as well as they did. It just shows that the Panthers system there is just rock solid, isn't it?
Yeah, and when they just played really well, they just held it together. The Knights are just ordinary, aren't they?
Yeah, they were poor. I mean, Ponga scored a try and got 47. I just felt like maybe they were banging their heads against a wall all game. Like the Panthers' defense is solid, and we know that. Supercoach wise, Peachy 103. So for anybody who held Tyrone Peachy, congratulations, because that's paid off for you in spades this week. Scotty Sorensen 76, Jack Cogger 75, and Edwards 73 are probably the only mentionable scores there above 70. Greg Marju 68 without a try. I'd say now that basically, if he hasn't shown you he's a season-long keeper, this game against the number one team in the comp, the best defense in the comp, and he scored 68 without an attacking stat except for a line break, just hold him in your center wing all year if you have him. But if you don't have him, would you bother?
That's no.
So let's say, for instance, you're looking to solidify your center wings, right? Are there better options than Marju to buy?
Oh, you know who I think.
Yeah. We'll leave it to later when he plays, and we'll talk about him. But yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think most people
who I
either
think, and I hope Phil's listening.
Yeah, I'll let you plead your case to Phil a little bit later, because I know you two were having a chat about it on Twitter.
To the judge.
Yes.
Judge Phil.
Yeah. Lucas Cheapy, very popular Cheapy from the week just gone in the center wing, playing in the back row, 57. Be pretty happy with that. I think he makes about 60K this week or 70K.
Yeah, you would have been stoked.
Same with Jamin Salmon. I don't know whether anybody jumped in. Actually, someone in the Discord jumped in. Can't remember exactly who it was, but they were saying they bought Jamin Salmon this week or last week. Might have even been last week. That's genius. So well played. 55. He'll make about 60K. So good little cash there. I already mentioned Ponga with a 47. He's going to be 690K with a 75 break even this week. I think the goal for me with Kalen Ponga, because I've got him at 5'8", I don't want him at fullback. I've got him at 5'8". I want to turn him into Munster. So I've just got to time this right. And to be honest, you'd look at 690 with a 75 break even. You'd go, oh, maybe this week's the right week to do it. They're versing the Bulldogs this week. So hold your Knights players. They could score some points, I think, this weekend. Might have even been Mark that had salmon. There we go.
Yeah, right.
Great little salmon shout out. I just don't know whether Munster is ready to be picked. I mean, we spoke a little bit about this off air before we were hopping on here, and I don't know. Like, he's got Origin round 19. He's just been rested, so you get him for one game. There's no guarantee he backs up for round 20 either. Do we just wait until Origin's done?
I'm going to. He did have a 58 break even, then didn't play this week. Like, if it was 20 break even, yes, I probably would have panic bought him. But yeah, look, pretty glad that he didn't get named this week, actually, for me.
Yeah, fair shout. Actually, I wish he did, because so my original plan was to get Turbo, like we spoke about on Tuesday. Turbo then Wednesday goes and ruins himself. So I'm like, all right, I'll pivot. I'll go Ponga down to fullback, and I'll go Buller to Munster. And then Munster got ruled out. So I'm like, okay, my third option was to go Buller straight to Walsh. Walsh got 26. Yep. I took the reserve off Jared Croker, who got 62. So I'm 37 or 38 points down there. So it was a bit of a shit show, really, for old Sheensy's revival at the back end of Sunday. But that's Supercoach.
That's Supercoach.
Sonny Luke 15, get rid of him. Actually, you know what? I don't even know if there's an option now. I think you just have to give up your VC. You just have to actually say, look, I'm not going to have a VC loop for the rest of the season.
Can he go below 200?
Nah, he'll just bounce off 200. He'll be $200,000 and $800, and that's where it'll sit. Yeah, which is nuts.
I just see the 24 break even, and he's like 208K or something. I just had to ask.
Yeah, that's right. Rosa, we'll get a link for the Discord in very soon, mate, and we'll pop it in the comments so you can join. Guys, NRL Fanatics Facebook group as well, through and leading up into the BBL season, in the BBL Legends Facebook group, we'll be doing a bit of content there for the BBL season, and also a little bit of content for the NRL Fanatics group. Good bunch of guys in there as well that run the page, so hop on into NRL Fanatics or NRL Supercoach Fanatics if you're on Facebook, and join there, because you get some really good advice from those guys as well. There's plenty of guys like us that talk Supercoach, live fantasy sports in general, so go and check it out. Join the group and the BBL Legends group in getting ready for BBL season. Make sure you join theirs too. Storm 24, Manly 6, mate. We've already spoken a little bit about Xavier Coates, 101. I don't think he's a buy now. I think he's too expensive. Nelson Asofa Solomona with an 88. I mean, front row forward, do you really want to spend $450K on your front row forward that's not going to play around 19? Not really a keeper. No. I don't think there's much point there. Jerome Hughes, 84. A lot of people jumped on maybe 2 weeks ago. I think it would have been when everyone was choosing Moses or
because he was
whoever.
Only 510K, 515K. It was madness.
Yep. So if anybody actually jumped on Hughes instead of Moses or whatever, you actually wouldn't really be upset, because he's made you some good cash. He's scored points every single week. And it looks like he's kind of taken a step up when Bellyache gave him a bit of a pizzling, I guess. I think it was about a month ago, telling him to run the ball a little bit more. So good for him. Our boy, Hamoli Olakawatu. I'll let you take the reins on this one, mate. The absolute glorious junk points at the end of that game.
Holy homoly. This was great. Like, first gets across for a try. Anyway, and I'm texting you, and it's about the 58th minute. And I was like, he scored a try and he's on 40. This is absolute garbage. Anyway, and drags his way up to like late 40s, and then right at the end with about 17 seconds to go, breaks 2 tackles, gets a line break, and then forces a line dropout. Like, that is what you want out of your second row forward. If that isn't David Fafita-esque, if that's just not something that lives and breathes Mattrix Reloaded, I don't know what does.
We both jumped on a few weeks ago now as a kind of super pod, I guess. Not many people were looking at Olakawatu, funnily enough, considering he was like a top 5 2RF last year. I'm actually surprised that not more people have jumped on. He has had an average year for his standards in terms of last year's comparison, but I mean, since we've got him, he's come good. So I'm not going to complain.
And like, if you're watching the game, you'd probably think, like, he'd only done like 3 runs up until like that 58th minute or something. It was actually awful. You understand how he's got these low scores and how he's dropped from 789K back to when we got him, what was he, 510? But yeah, we persevered, kept an eye on it, and seems like we'll get a good price rise and hopefully a season-long keeper out of him.
And I think also we need to mention as well with Olakau'atu that when Turbo's not in the team, Olakau'atu averages, I think it's 56 points per game. But when Turbo is in the team, he averages like 44. So there's a massive uptick there in the amount of ball that he gets and the amount of attack and how they use him. I think obviously instead of DCE going out the back, he takes the short option. He takes a block play option a little bit more, which gets Olakau'atu into the game on that right edge. So I'm very happy I went there. I mean, is he too? I'd argue now, I don't even think he's too expensive to grab. I know he doesn't play round 19, which isn't great, but like if you're okay for 19 and you're looking for a good 2RF 4 or something like that, he could be a really great option to play on matchup.
Look, he was 528k this week, had a 48 break even and got 80. He's not out of reach at 550k. I nearly considered getting him at that price a bit earlier. Yes, we were lucky that we got on at the right time, but don't think you've missed the boat on Holy Hamoli.
Wasn't he last year 700 and something thousand?
789. Yeah, he peaked at 789.
There you go. So when you look at a guy that was 789 with a 65 season average last year and he's 520k, you just grab him and you know that there's going to be an uptick there at some point.
Oh my God.
Share.
I've just seen the update, which wasn't in my notes, and Christian Welch got 72 and I sat him this week.
Yeah, I played him kind of because I had no choice. I'm very, very happy about Christian Welch 72. That was awesome. We didn't mention William Warbrick, who back to back has gone and got what he get 100 million last week with 400
144 or something.
Yeah, and he got 80 this week. I mean, look, if you're the two people that carried him, good on you. I think everybody moved him on for cash, which made sense about maybe 6 to 8 weeks ago, but I don't think I'd go back there.
Look, 20% of teams owned him, but I'd love to get the stats on like how many of those guys are outside the top 60,000 because people got him at the right time. Look, we did know that this would sort of happen at some stage, that Melbourne Storm would fire. Look, am I a bit annoyed that I got off him a bit early? Yes, probably. But you live with your decisions and yeah, you don't buy him back again.
Yeah. I've got 3 names for you. I want you to give me your thoughts on all 3. Harry Grant.
Do you want thumbs up?
I want you to give me your thoughts on whether these guys are buys, holds, sells. Okay.
Yep.
Harry Grant, 45 this week. Is he a must-have anymore?
Yep. I'm going to argue he's not. Honestly, he's getting what I get out of Reece Robson, and they both are playing Origin now. Like, I would be arguing that you need to get Harry Grant to Reece Robson if Reece Robson didn't get picked for Origin. Like, honestly.
I mean, if you got Harry Grant, you're not selling him now. There's no point. No. If you've held him all this time, you just hold on. I mean, now the question, I think everybody's been thinking, how do I get to Harry Grant after Origin? Now, do you even need to have that conversation? I've got Damien Cook and I've got Reed Marnie. I genuinely don't think I need to move either of them to Harry Grant at this point until he shows me something. I mean, I know last week he got 120 or whatever it was, but Storm completely ran over the top of him.
He only just covered his 28 break even. Like,
yeah, and I think when you look at his last 8 weeks worth of points,
they pumped the Eagles.
Yeah, when you look at his last 6 to 8 rounds, it hasn't really been amazing. I mean, you look at Reed Marnie's scores, you're probably looking at the same kind of scores as Harry Grant. So the answer is no, not a must-have.
No, not a must-have at this point. I think if he goes on a run, I'm going to hope that I have enough trades that I can get him in.
Nick Meaney, 43. He got put on ice at the end of the game, didn't play the final 20 minutes, I think it was, because they were up. Apparently came out in his post-match interview. He's been carrying a groin niggle for a few weeks now. And obviously no one in Melbourne's told us that. But he went and said it. What are your thoughts on Meaney? You're an owner of Meaney. What are you doing with him? Are you just a hold?
I'm an owner of Meaney, and I wonder if I have to hold him now. At least I'm not really super scared of Pappy coming back, which is what I thought when I got him. I'm not scared of Pappy coming back, but maybe I just have to hold because I'm worried it's a waste of a trade. Am I going to lose some cash on him? Maybe, but I'm going to play him most weeks. Like, even 43 isn't an absolute disaster. If they put him on ice and he misses a few weeks, though, look, maybe I have to use some duels and get Like if Munster goes to fullback or something, he's a must own then.
Yeah, I mean, and we look at the Melbourne Storm run home. It's quite nice. Like, I mean, they've got Penrith next week, so we don't need to jump on any Melbourne players next week. But then they've got, I mean, the Roosters, who haven't been performing very well. They've got the Knights, the Eels, then they've got the Panthers again. But then the final four games are Raiders, Dragons, Titans, Broncos. So, I mean, you could, again, depending on how many trades you have left, and if you're not stuck with Eels players, against the Broncos, maybe you trade out a Storm player and get in a guy with a nice matchup for around 27. So,
yeah. I'm wondering this week, and I know it's probably an early call, but I'm wondering this week with that groin niggle, I think I'll end up keeping him. I don't need that cash for anything else at the moment. I might not even do any trades this week. Spoiler alert. But I don't think I'm going to play him against Penrith. I've got the depth.
Yeah, I actually don't mind that call. It's not a bad call. My last player for you, very contentious one, very popular one, Josh Schuster, 21 this week, 400K, drop 30K this week with a 65 break even next week. And for anybody who can't or is listening to us on Spotify or Apple, Matty has just got up and walked out. So I'm assuming what that means about Josh Schuster is that he's a sell. And I would agree. I feel like maybe I feel like Schuster's game maybe isn't conducive to Supercoach points when he's so attacking reliant. I don't know. What do you think?
Schuster's game isn't conducive to NRL.
I disagree. I think we're being a bit harsh on him. Like, I feel like Turbo definitely made him look much better than he was.
Look, he's a guy that has low base, and the Eagles just got a lot worse. He doesn't have that workload that somebody like Ruben Garrick has, that makes me want to have him. Like, you watch Rubes play, and he gets involved and digs in and gets there. And Schuster was trying, but his time's up in my team.
I think so as well. I'll look to sell him. I don't know whether it's the right time next week to sell him. I mean, if you've got an option, if you've got him in the 2RF or whatever, yeah, great. Like, maybe you can sit on him for a week. At the end of the day, he's only got a 65 break even. So it's not like an urgent, I must sell next week, otherwise I'm going to drop 70K kind of situation. I mean, he could easily get a 30 or 40 next week and he drops 15K. Big deal. Then you reassess round 19. And I think that's probably what I'll do. It's not urgent.
I'm just a really frustrated owner right now. Like, I played him. Oh, sorry, I didn't play him this week, but it sort of ruined my AE. I sort of would have got Billy Smiths and an extra, 20 points or whatever. I'm just over having him in my team. And if I make a trade this week, it'll probably be a rage trade on Josh Schuster.
Yeah, okay.
I know I always say that, like, I know I always say that you don't want a rage trade, but when you've got a guy that's got, achievable break evens every week, and then and he's capable of getting, what's he had, 2 tons that I've seen him get. Like, he's capable, but 60 break even, getting 20s, and he's going to be 400K. I just wonder if I just want to stop the fight now.
Hey, I can't argue about moving him out. A few people in the chat saying loop killer. Yeah, absolutely. He is a loop killer. He was my AA this week, unfortunately. Yep. Otherwise, it would have been Billy Smith who got 40 odd. So, I mean, they've got the Roosters next week who haven't been great either. I'm not super worried about moving him ASAP, like I said.
I'll probably just hold, but he's going to have like 100 break even, isn't he?
Yeah, which means you just move him around 19 to someone who plays 19, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe that's the play. Let's move on. Broncos 12, Titans 18. I tell you what, you're lucky you missed some of this game, because when I was watching it, I was pulling my hair out. I'm not a Broncos supporter, and obviously it's Queensland teams playing each other, and I was sitting there, I was raging at the refereeing in this game. I don't necessarily think the referees lost or won the game or anything, but there's just so many inconsistencies and grey areas now in the game, and it's really frustrating to watch. And they came out in full force in this game both ways. David Fafita, away from the refereeing, got 116. Now, he's still going to lose 38K, and he's still going to have 148 break even next week.
Yep.
So the beauty of it is, yes, you miss out on the 116 points, but we sold him to Ola Kawatu, and he got 80 odd this week, right? And then he also got 60 odd last week. So we're still ahead on that trade, and we made 300K. So for anybody who's
Yeah.
a little bit worried about trading for Feeder, you still probably made a ton of cash, and also he's going to drop more cash next week. Not a big issue. And yeah, mate, he's all over that, Rawsy. You should know.
Yeah.
You should know if you've watched the pod.
Trust me.
Never comes
Trust
back
me,
without
that
a beer.
Trust me, you think David Fafita's an actor? I just walked out because I wanted a beer. But look, yeah,
speaking...
no, just really, really frustrating from the Broncos, really. But Paddy Carrigan got close for a try. Cam Pereira, I know that we don't own him, but every week he has a chance of scoring 2, isn't he?
Yeah. And I mean, 76, I had a look at what his ownership was in the top 1%, just wondering if anybody held him. I think 2 teams in the top 1% own him. So you don't have to panic about him ruining or kind of, missing out on him, because no one has him. So it's not a big deal anymore, I don't think, for anybody competing for a top 1% finish. Brian Kelly, 82, Paddy Carrigan, 76, you mentioned, AKP, 76, Mo Fodawaker, 70. I mean, he's got Origin coming up, which is a shame, but the beauty of these Titans players now is that all their buys are done. They're the first team to complete all of their buys. So my question to you now becomes, who do you consider from the Gold Coast Titans? Because next week is the perfect time to buy them.
So my trades this weekend's probably a good thing, I suppose, upon reflection, was to bring in AJ Brimson.
Yep.
And it was to bring in Valentine Holmes. Feeling really good about my trades, if I'm being completely honest. It was Jareem Buller and I can't even remember who I traded out for in my
who'd you get in?
5/8. I got in AJ at 5/8. Ellie Katoa, because I went
via Jules, via Schuster.
Forgive me. No, not via Schuster, via Willie Army, via Mano.
How good's that Willie Army duel been? Honestly, every week we talk about you being able to shuffle things around because of Braden Willie Army. It's been legendary.
Next year, my team might be Willie Army's Warriors.
You'll have to have his name in there somewhere. He's done you a solid all year.
Yeah, no, but so I got in AJ because I wanted him. He covered his break even of 57, and he's still 525K. I think he's a buy. Of course, I want Fafita, and I would love to have Tino. I'm just not sure if I have the trades to get Tino in, but I've got Brimson. I'm really happy. I think that he could be a season-long keeper for me. And 100%, I will own David Fafita again this year. Is there anyone outside of that you think that you could get from the Titans, mate?
I mean, yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, Fafita, Tino, Brimson seem like the 3 obvious options. Obviously, with Tino not playing this week, that hurt a lot of people. I think a lot of people had to pivot quite late. The good thing was you could go from Tino to Haas in the same game, really, once he was named out with an hour to go.
Yep.
So that threw a few people, but I think
if you don't delve into Supercoach, you get sort of trapped into the fact that you think Gold Coast Titans are still a bad team or a bad scoring team. They're in the top 8. They've just fired a coach and they've just beat the number 1 team. They are a good team, and they're a good Supercoach team because they pile on a lot of points.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between being a bad team per se and being a bad Supercoach team, because the Titans score points every week. They might lose 38 to 34, but 3 of their players get tons. So it's exactly the same as the Tigers, right? And no one would have believed it, but up until like round 10, there was only 1 player that scored 100 against the Tigers. So whilst they were bottom of the table and they were shit, they couldn't score points, but they definitely weren't the team to target in terms of your matchups. So you've got to look at those total Supercoach points.
And when the Tigers go bad, their forwards always score fairly well as well. Like fairly well. Like in a bad game where they get pumped by 40, they still get 50 or 60. So
yeah. Last talking point on this one, mate. Walsh 26. A lot of people captain him. 10% in the top 1% of teams captain Reece Walsh, and would have been very upset about that. Which
I dodged that bullet.
We said on Tuesday pod that we were actually looking at captaining Reece Walsh, and I think you would have captained if you didn't take the VC loop, right?
Yeah, the C was sitting there. I was locked in. Look, when Munster gets ruled out, you know that they've partied hard, don't you? So yeah, I would have been worried. I was there on the weekend. It might be a good segue into on Wednesday. Might be a good segue into a small Origin chat. But yeah, look, Reece Walsh was probably lucky to play with the way he carried on towards the end of the game. But you know what? He was actually running down just under me, ran off, kissing his chest, just loving it. Look, yeah, he's going to bring that passion back next week. It's just a little bit of an outlier. He looked like he tried the hardest out of maybe anyone apart from Paddy Carrigan out there on the field. So that's just a good sign if you got him this week. Don't think that you have to rage trade him out or anything.
Nah, not at all. No. I was just about to say, like, when you watch the game, and I've said it week on week, he's one of those guys that is scary not to own. He's just in everything. I think he overplayed his hand this afternoon. Or this afternoon. I think he overplayed his hand. He looked to try and get in everything, which he probably shouldn't have. He made a few errors, missed a few tackles. We need to remember this guy's 20 years old. He's a hot-headed, aggressive, arrogant 20-year-old. And we saw that on Wednesday night, right? Like he played well, but carried on like a bit of a pork chop at the end of the game. And that's a maturity thing. And I think that probably carried over into this game for the Broncos. He tried to do a bit too much and probably bit him in the ass, I think, this afternoon. But in saying that, I was saying to you, in this game, he could have easily got 100, 120. There were two moments in this game that his try that got disallowed on that obstruction, that Academy Award-winning performance from David Fafita, the 110, 120 kilo, 6'3" that got blown over by a gust of wind, with Jordan Ricky apparently jogging through can knock over a David Fafita. But hey, that's the rules. So people have just learned how to milk it. So, that could have been, I think he went up to 50 or 60 after that. And then that kind of line ball, maybe a little bit forward, pass, try assist probably could have got him up near close to 100, I think. So one of those games.
It's good. They ran him through everything. Kevy will give everybody an absolute spray. If you saw any of the press conference, he was very, very dirty. I suppose this Ben Hunt news probably has to affect some of the players as well, and sometimes negatively. Like there's going to be some people that lose their spots. There's going to be people that move down further in the ladder. Like you don't expect, Tyson Smoothie to be named next week when he comes in. And
one of the people I feel most for is Billy Walters, who's had a really good season, played another really good game this afternoon, and essentially he's just going to end up on the bench now as a backup to Ben Hunt, basically for the rest of the season. So I feel sorry for him. But
as someone that's had a little bit. Yeah, as somebody that's had a little bit to do with him, I think like he's a professional, and I think he'll just do what he needs to do for the team to get as close to that championship as it was. But when you start seeing like the way that they played against the Titans today, like Ben Hunt's got to have a little bit in the back of his mind, or maybe I just made the wrong decision. Like, do I sign for 4 months for the Broncos for less money, or do I just go to the Titans, which it's rumored. I think it's in the Courier Mail, Sunday Telegraph for those in other states. It's a done deal. He's just going to go do 4 months with the Broncos and then go to the Titans. Wouldn't you just watch this game and think, maybe I just take more money and go straight to the fucking Titans?
Didn't Kevy say something like that in the presser? Say that someone asked him about Ben Hunt, and he's like, I wouldn't be coming here if I watched what we did this afternoon. Which, hey, fair call to Kevy. It's pretty honest, pretty transparent.
Yeah.
But
we do. I suppose like you have a look at the Storm and they got the job done, and the Sea Eagles I probably put in the same realm as the Titans, and then the Broncos had 5 out as well. Admittedly they had a few more out, and they've come back and we just look lackluster. I think it's just a blip in the radar, and we'll get better next week. But yeah, there's got to be those quick question marks in your head if you're Ben Hunt.
It's true, mate. Let's smash out a couple of these questions, and then we'll move on to the last 2 games and wrap this one up. Fourth World, hey mate, how are you? Good to see you on. Is Joey Manu a great buy after today, killing it at centre?
If I didn't own him, yes, probably.
Did you watch the full game of this one?
Yep. Saturday watched every
he looked like a different player. I don't know what it was. Maybe there was this pressure on his shoulders from 5'8" that he had to do more than he thought he could do, or that he had to play make or kind of pass more than he wanted to pass, because we know he doesn't like passing. It just felt like he had this freedom, this newfound freedom at centre that he hadn't had for the last couple of months, and I really liked it. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think I said last week something along the lines of I prefer him at centre than I do 5'8". Was I right there?
I was gonna Yeah, so I was actually going to give you credit for that, but now you're just a smug prick, so I'm just going to sit here.
Someone's got to do it, mate. Someone's got to talk me up.
No. Yeah, and like you actually talked me out of. I was like, oh, I think with his 18, that Joey Manu might look like somebody that I get rid of. But if he plays like this in center, and probably somehow, I think that he might have a higher base at center, and I don't know how that works.
He kind of plays a second fullback role. Just roves around and grabs the ball from dummy half in the middle of the field and just does random shit. But they've given him that freedom at centre to be able to do that and just rove either side of the ruck and kind of follow the ball. So I definitely wouldn't be selling him. And I mean, maybe he's a buy. Maybe he's a buy and a hold for the rest of the year. Couldn't argue with it. Scored 2 tries and looked good today.
I see him as a season keeper now. In 2 weeks, I've seen him as a season keeper. So
me too. Xavier Coates, we've already mentioned, mate. I think he's a bit too expensive now. So we'll leave that one. Will Ben Hunt get... Oh, missed one. Will Ben Hunt get dual hooker? No, he won't. He hasn't played hooker for 3 games. So you've got to play 3 games of hooker to be considered for dual. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's this round, isn't it? The DP's dual positions change again for the final time of the season. Yeah.
18, yeah. So he won't get dual hooker. He might get dual hooker going into next year, which might make him a play.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd say he will. I think the one maybe person that will get dual will be Harrison Edwards. He should get front row, second row dual for playing lock. But again, that's probably not relevant
which I don't hate.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for trades and stuff. I've already got Tohu Harris and Tarpany sitting in the front row. So I've got all these front row forward, second row forward duals sitting in my front row. So I can't even do anything with them.
I need a second row forward fullback dual. So
that will. All right, sick. Let's move on. Last 2 games, mate. Souths got flogged by the Cowboys 31-6. Bit of an interesting one, this one. Drinky 139. Dearden and Val 89. Nanai 81. Now, go on, sell me on Val, because I don't know whether I'm still yet convinced that he's a must-have. So you need to sell it to me.
So this is why I was worried about it. He was 708K with a 28 break even. I bought him at the start of the year at 720K, knowing that I was going to get rid of him at round 13. Anyway, this golden draws happened, didn't pan out. Still averaged 70. He averages 98 the last 3 rounds, averaged 74.5. Trust me, this is off the cuff. 74.5 the last 5 rounds. And I just want him in my team. Like, you have a look, and he is in everything after playing a game of footy on Wednesday. The Cowboys are looking better. Like, I wanted Val when the Cowboys were playing bad footy. Now the Cowboys are playing good footy. I'm just hoping people don't have enough trades to get him in, or don't have enough money to get him in, because I see him being 800K in a few weeks. I think he is a must-have and a genuine vice-captain option most weeks.
Fair call. I feel like he's maybe 1 week away from being out of reach for me. I don't want to go and pay close to 800 for him. And I mean, what's he going to cost now?
That's the mentality that I was sort of saying last week. Like, this is the mentality. Like, I am hoping that Val, and it's crazy to think of Val as a pod, but at 800K, a lot of people are going to be scared off, and I have him. So
he'll be about 770 after this week.
Yeah.
So essentially, he could be too far gone.
This is the last week. I think he's probably already too far gone. But maybe if you have a Sarko or someone, I would prefer to have Val than a Sarko.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I'd prefer that too.
Played, I would prefer to have Val to a Sarko. So maybe you jump off a sinking ship, because the Dolphins are the team that we said in preseason they were going to be.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys are becoming the team in preseason we thought they were going to be.
Hey, good. It only took us 17 rounds to get it right, but eventually the Dolphins became shit and the Cowboys became good. So,
you know what? An elephant never forgets. I said that the Cowboys would be good, and they are. And I said the Dolphins would be shit. Well, 3 years later, they are. So
ignore the 17 rounds of good football they've played. We were right.
Yeah, I will.
Some quick mentions here in this one. Richie Kennar, 63 without a try. 3 line breaks, 30 points in line breaks, mind you.
Oh,
But
yes.
I mean, he's going to get line breaks in this Rabbitohs team. They're going to put him in gaps all the time. So we said on the pod last week he could be probably the cheapy option of the week this week, and it sounds like we're right based on cash. He's going to make 70K this week, and he's going to have a negative 15 break even next week. So he could still be gettable at 310, 320. I don't think he's too far gone. I reckon he's won that spot now.
I was very close from going Buller to Kenner, and then obviously you just heard what was going on in my head with Val, so I went that way. But yeah, just to go Kenner and just knowing that I would be able to go back to Fafita whenever, I could just get Harry Grant whenever. Well, yes, I'm happy, but Richie Kenner, get him in your team if you have the trade, because if you can go Billy Smith to Richie Kenner, at least you can play him.
Yeah, that is a good call. And hey, look, maybe Richie Kenner ends up being a guy you can play on matchup at some point. If you don't have Alex Johnston, maybe for instance, bring in Richie Kenner, you get a slice of that Rabbitohs pie.
I still don't hate AJ to Richie Kenner.
Yeah, that's a fair call. That is a fair call. Cam Murray, 47 again. He's going to lose 37,000. He's going to be, get this, like 460K next week with a 76 break even.
You could make like 40 or 50K by going Jackson Ford to Cameron Murray. Let that sink in.
How about you could do Josh Schuster to Cameron Murray for about 60K?
Well, at the start of the year, I thought Josh Schuster was going to be good, so let's just not let that sink in as much.
And they both.
But you go Harry, like Harry Edwards, for example, some guy that you've never heard of at the start of the year. Yeah, and I still don't want him.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. I think he's been so bad this year and he's carrying groin niggles, all sorts of shit going on with Cam Murray. So I think maybe, and obviously with the Rabbitohs having that round 26 bye, it's just not appealing, and the round 20 bye, mind you. So you're only going to get him for round 21 to 25. I don't think there's a point.
Like maybe this is the second time I've mentioned it or not. Maybe I'm already looking at Cameron Murray as like a 60% owned guy next year because he's going to be 350K.
So cheap. Oh my God, he's going to be so cheap. He'll be first purchased, I reckon. Pappenhausen will probably be number one purchased if he comes in at bloody 500K or something like that. People will jump on him like Turbo last year. And Cam Murray will be up there too. Last one, mate. Last game. Roosters 18 lost to Raiders 20. I don't know how to take this. Actually, I'm going to skip these scores. I want to go to one specific score. James Tedesco 34. Now, again, I don't know whether what you took from the way Tedesco played, but he just looks a step or two behind. Like he can't hit a gap. And did you see there was one where he took a run? I think it was an offload from, I can't remember who the offload, from Sandon Smith, made a half break, flipped the ball out the back, and he's got the gap, but he's not even looking at the ball. And then he ends up fumbling it through what are you doing? What is going on with James Tedesco?
You're looking for, and I think he just took a really roundabout way to say the word bad.
Because Father Time's catching up with him?
Maybe. What is he, 33?
Yeah. I think he's like a little bit older than me. 1 year older than me, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 34 then. I don't know, man. I watch him play and I don't for a second think that he's a guy that I want in my team.
No fucking way.
And
no way am I going
and we're here to talk about Supercoach, and we just talked about not wanting Cam Murray and Tedesco in our team.
It's crazy, isn't it? What a year.
I would love Joey Manu to line up at fullback.
Yeah, me too. We spoke about it last year. Maybe they do the switch where Manu goes to fullback and Tedesco goes to 5'8", but I've actually thought about this and I don't think that's a good option either because Tedesco can't pass and he can't kick. So using him at 5'8" would be kind of useless. You know where he'd be really good? In centre or wing. Yeah, and reserve grade potentially, but you can't do that to Teddy. I mean, the guy's just he's been too good for too long. But in saying that, I truly feel like maybe centre could be a good way for him to finish his career.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to pass from centre. I mean, Isaac Tungo and bloody Tyrone Peachy and every other centre that's played this year, bloody Isaiah Tass, all these glue hands players, they don't need to pass the ball. So just let Teddy catch the ball and run. See what he can do. Play him there.
Yeah, look.
I don't know. But the Roosters need to make a decision now, don't they? They're seeing Tedesco and they're seeing their team lose. And they're seeing Tedesco not looking anywhere near himself. And you've got Manu wasting away after what he did last week. Like, how long is Manu just going to sit here and go, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay at centre.
Yeah, but I thought that last year. And he thrives at centre. So I suppose just let him go. He's obviously happy getting centre money and sitting in centres.
Yeah, true.
Uncle Nick will look after him.
He will, absolutely. He's in the right place, that's for sure. Marnie got 91. Lindsay Collins with a try, 84. Backing up after Origin. The guy's a beast, man. Like, he's not a guy I'd want to run.
Beast.
Not a guy I'd want to run at. Corey Horsburgh, 78. Hudson Young, 73. Sandon Smith, 70. So I asked you earlier, do we take a punt on Hudson Young, hoping he doesn't get picked round 19 Origin?
I think I've just got to wait. Fourth World said it too. And I'm thinking, like, if you've been listening for, say, 10 weeks, I'm a massive Hudson Young fan. And I think you've just got to wait. I think he's probably young enough that he will probably just get selected round 19 because it's a dead rubber. In Origin during round 19 because it's a dead rubber. I just can't see them dropping him.
I mean, look, for his sake, I hope they do. I hope they stick with him. I hope they just think this guy's obviously a forward of the future for New South Wales. We can't go and drop him and just do him dirty. I hope they pick him, but honestly, I've seen weirder things happen. I mean, Freddie's ruined a few careers, a few Origin careers, I must say.
Like his own.
Yeah. And also a few players around him. I mean, Damien Cook playing centre. Like, that's... we haven't even talked about Origin, but there's a few fuck-ups there.
I don't think there's too many people that are blaming Damien Cook for that. And, like, I was at the game.
No way.
And, like, nobody's blaming Damien Cook for that. Like, you just make a selection of somebody that can play in your back line.
Yeah, it should have been Burton. Simple as that. Burton should have been on the bench. Solves all your problems.
Yeah.
Now, Josh Papali'i injured his hamstring tonight in this last game of the round. He went off after about 10 minutes, and it looks like it's maybe grade 1 to 2. They're not quite sure yet. But if he sees a little bit of time out, does that benefit Joseph Tarpany? Because for me, it does.
I hope so. Taps is sort of in that realm of... Basically, you could have the same conversation that we had about Tohu, haven't you? Like, at least he's getting 60s instead of 50s, but they're not that far away. Just been a bit disappointing, I think. Yeah,
and I think, look, a front row forward, if you get 60s in your front row forward, you get your points elsewhere. I'll happily take 60s at front row forward if I can get hundreds elsewhere. Like, I'm not overly worried about picking up 80s and 90s at front row. So, if you can plug and play a Haas, a Tino, a Tarpany, a Harris, whoever it needs to be to get you 60 or 70 every week, you're sweet.
But that's what I'm sort of saying, we're saying let's get Haas and Tino in now, and you've already got Tohu and Tarpany, the rest of the nation. Is it really worth a trade?
No, definitely not. I don't think it's worth getting Tarpany in, but I think he's a plug and play for the rest of the season. But I think it might benefit him. Maybe his workload goes up. We know that Sticky will kind of lean on him a little bit more with Josh Papali'i out. Is there anybody maybe off the bench that benefits from Papali'i? Because I think there's Pasami Solo? Yeah, Pasami Solo could come into contention maybe. Pastrami could come into contention maybe. So close watch on team list on Tuesday. Last question for you, Billy Smith, 42. Again, another dud score. Get him out of your team ASAP is my opinion. Do you agree?
Yeah. I think as long as the Roosters are bad, Billy Smith's going to be bad. So
he looked involved. He just I just think those 80s and 90s are now beyond him. I don't think we're going to see that from him again.
I wish he was playing round 19.
But he's not. So you can probably move him on before he starts to bleed more cash.
Yep.
Now, let's talk early trades, mate. It is Sunday night, so I'm not exactly locked into anything, but and we'll talk a lot more about it on TLT. But what are you thinking initially, mate, for trades this week? I know you said you weren't thinking you were going to trade at all, but
I'm actually thinking no trades. I'm pretty happy. I've got numbers for next week. I made my, I suppose, not cash grab. I made the guys that I wanted to keep in Val and Brimson there. Happy to roll them into next week and just, I suppose, keep on keeping on. If I had to rage trade anyone, it would be Schuster. If I could find a great replacement, look, maybe I go Richie Kennar or something from Billy Smith. But I want to accomplish a bit more than that. I've got a gun center wing. Just ask Phil. And
He
like
listens
my
as
center
well,
wing.
so he's going to enjoy this episode.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. Like my center wings are elite, and yeah, I just don't think I can do anything with accomplishing without like getting like maybe AJ down to somebody and creating this cash to get in you for feeders and guys like that. It might be a forward planning if I do a trade, but I honestly think that I'm probably going to end the week on none.
Fair call. Fair call. I'm thinking potentially one trade. I'm thinking Billy Smith to Ronaldo Mulatalo. I've got 460k in the bank at the moment that I've kind of kept there from the Fafita trade that I haven't used. And also I gained a little bit of cash going Buller down to Reece Walsh, so it started to accumulate. So I've got 14 trades left, and I think I'll use one next week, and that'll just be Billy Smith to Mulatalo. I like Ronnie Mulatalo's run. I like what the Sharks have ahead of them. They've got the Dragons into the Tigers the next 2 rounds. He plays round 19. He could honestly go bang, bang, 100 over the next 2 weeks if he gets enough ball. And we had a conversation around Val or Mulatalo, and you're going Val Holmes, I'm going Mulatalo. So I guess it's kind of same argument in a way. I'm looking at the draw. I'm looking at the team that they're on. I like the fact that he's on the left wing for a good team. And they're versing, or actually, no, sorry, I should rephrase that and say he's on the wing in a team that likes to bash up bottom 8 teams, and he's coming up against the Dragons and the Tigers in the next 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So,
and he's playing round 19. I think like the fact that he's playing round 19 is a big draw card for Mulatalo. I really like the trade.
I mean, we've got, I think 10 teams that are playing round 19, and we've got the Bulldogs, Dolphins, Sharks, Titans, Warriors, and Tigers that play the next 3 rounds. So they play 18, 19, and 20. So if you're kind of looking to get ahead in the rankings or whatever, I'd probably be targeting those 6 teams moving forward. At least then until round 20. But then you've got the Dragons, the Eels, Souths, and the Raiders who play round 19 as well. So there's some good options floating around there for trades. But we'll explore a lot more of that on that show on the Wednesday. And also we'll talk about a TLT as well on Tuesday evening. Do we have any final questions before we wrap up? Robbie Starr's thinking Dillbags and Schuster to Tino and Munster. I mean,
can't argue with that.
No, and obviously he's starting to think more about his run home team, which makes complete sense. Fourth World is thinking Munster. He wants our thoughts on whether Munster is priced right now, or is AJ a better option? I'm assuming he means AJ Brimson.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty happy with AJ at 500k because it was a good sort of discount. If I start to see a heap of money leaking out of Cody Walker with his draw, with his 2 buys coming up, that's when I would go to Munster. Like, obviously Munster's a better option than AJ Brimson. I know he is. But for what I could afford, having the gun center wings where I am, I suppose, we're going to have to see the rest of your team to work it out. But if you have the money, of course, go Munster. But at 140k cheaper, you can't do any better than AJ Brimson.
And I did mention Titans have obviously finished all their buys, but the Bulldogs and the Tigers have also finished all their buys now, which is worth mentioning. So, which segues into the final question for tonight. Sean Bloor next week. And we talked about a bailout for Schuster. Sean Bloor is sitting at, I think, 350 or maybe 380 or something like that. So like you gain a little bit of cash out of it, not much, but he's got a negative break even and he'll cover round 19. So I don't know. I don't know whether I like it or not. I feel like I don't want people at that price.
I just can't. I can't see myself finishing the season with Sean Bloor. Can you? And that's sort of where I'm at with 12 trades left. Maybe if I had 15 trades, then I'll be like, mate, let's have a punt on this guy. Like he's got an 80-minute role in, the Tigers have been better.
I don't think I want both edges. I've got to say Papali'i, and so do you. I don't know whether I want Bloor as well. But hey, I don't mind it as an option. I don't hate it.
I don't think I want 2 Tigers.
Yeah, in general, I've got off Buller, so I've only got IPAP left. Selman, Matty scored nearly 1,300, I think 1,292 or something, and I got 1,197. He's got a question for us. So should we consider bringing in Latrell and Cleary as soon as they come back from their injuries? No. Latrell being out since round 12, and it's rumoured that he's not going to be back until round 21. So my personal opinion is you want to see Latrell. He's going to be back after their bye. Give him a week or 2, have a look, see how he moves, see how much he gets involved. Same thing with Cleary. I'll be holding off on Cleary as well.
Yep.
Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Like you seeing Latrell not play for 8 weeks, and then he has about by round 26 anyway. If I'm spending that amount of money on someone, I want him to play every week for me. Cleary, it's a wait and see. So he comes back. Say he comes back round 21. I'm going to want to see him for a couple of weeks to bring him in. I'm going to have to see a genuine upgrade from Mitchell Moses, and I'm not sure I'm there. So let's just see how it pans out.
And that kind of maybe segues into Robbie Starr's question, is Cleary a must when he comes back? And I think we mentioned this last week that I don't think he is, and you probably agree. With hamstrings being niggly injuries that usually take, there's a re-injury rate, a reoccurrence rate for hamstrings. So I'd want to see what he does for a week or two upon returning before I jump on. And I mean, if you've got an SJ or if you've got a Mitchell Moses, like these are guys you can hold for the rest of the year. They're scoring Cleary type scores at the moment. So trades are going to be very, very important on the run home. So keep them in your back pocket.
And if you're looking at making a pod, like maybe everybody in the top 1% is planning their Cleary back, and you're sitting there with Mitchell Moses or SJ, which at any given week at the moment, it's a worthy pod.
Yeah, absolutely it is. We're doing the rundown of the breakdown for the players for the run home that we want to target. We're going to do that. That's going to drop on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that one. What to do with Teddy? Sell him, get rid of him, get him out of your team ASAP. He doesn't look the same. Thanks, Rosa. Appreciate it. We enjoy it, mate. We like making these videos and streaming and chatting Supercoach and stuff. So appreciate all the support. And that goes for everybody as well that watches every week. We love it. We love talking about it and we love the interaction. So thank you for turning up. Is Nico a must? Yes. Get him. Don't look back. Captain him the next 2 weeks and enjoy. And that's it. I think we got there.
Yep.
And worth keeping a boost for the final round. I don't think you need a boost, Chris. I don't think you need a boost. I've used all 5 of mine, so maybe that tells you what my mindset is on boosts. But I think you just want to have maybe 2 trades. That's probably where I'd leave it.
Yeah, like if you're boosting for a guy in the final round, I just start to think like, let's have a look at the last 7 rounds. Like I know that the Storm, like I'm not going to boost for Cameron Munster in the last round when I see how good his draw opens up after round 20. Like I just want him now. I would boost for Cameron Munster in round 20 if I need to. So
yeah. Last one from Stephanos. Have Ponga already at fullback? Who to trade Teddy to? Reece Walsh. I mean, if you want to fork out, go to Gutho. Gutho's going to be stupid expensive. He's going to be nearly 900k now.
AJ Brimson is an offer is an option if you don't have too many. I suppose if you don't have much cash in the bank.
Love it. And that will do us. I know we went a little bit over time here, but thanks for all the questions, guys. We appreciate it. And we will be back on Tuesday to talk all things team lists ahead of round 18 and kind of wrap up all your trades and talk our thoughts as well. So thanks for hopping on. If you're still here, hit subscribe, hit like. And if you're listening, hit follow and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you Tuesday. Catch you later.
Cheerio.